Good morning and welcome back to the vlog. I'm currently sat in my shed, stood in my shed, procrastinating. I need to just harden up and get out on the bike. It's about 4 degrees today, but with the wind chill and whatever the feels like I think is -2. So I've got every piece of kit that I own on right now. I got a real thick base layer, a gabber, a gilet over the top. I got some deep winter gloves. I got a buff, a head warmer. I'm even going to be wearing overshoes today. The plan is today I'm just going to do a hard ride. So that's why I'm going to film as much as I can right now, because I don't know how much I'm going to be able to film on the ride, just with the efforts that I'm doing and whatnot. But I think it's better to do, like, when it's so cold, to just ride harder. So I'm going to do about a 2-hour ride today. I'm going to spend over an hour of it at tempo. So 2 30-minute efforts. That way I'm not going to just be riding around easy. I'm going to be riding hard, and hopefully that way I can stay a little bit warmer, because even just stood here, man, I'm freezing cold. So yeah, I'm going to crack on. Yay, I love winter, yes. All right, skipping ahead a little bit of time. That's the first tempo effort done. It's not actually that cold. It's not actually that cold, or I don't feel that cold. But yeah, that was the first one. 30 minutes, zone 3, just like a steady state effort. It's not really that, they're not awfully hard. It's just all about keeping on top of a gear, and it's like a slow burning effort. You start to feel it after around 15 minutes, but yeah, it's completely manageable. Just gonna ride around for 15 or 20 minutes and then jump into the next one. My legs feel pretty good actually after the FTP test yesterday. I thought they were gonna feel a lot worse than they do, so that's a positive. Two hours today with 2 30-minute efforts. It got pretty cold again after I stopped after the first effort to recover before the second. Didn't get a whole load of content on the bike today. This is just what happens some days, but I've got an idea. Okay, so I got a little bit of an idea. Yesterday in my FTP video, I did an overlay from Strava showing my numbers and my a few of the stats from the FTP test. I tend to use Strava just because the user interface is pretty good. It looks good on screen. It's very easy to read. But I wanted to give you guys a little bit more information about how I actually where I upload my training to, as well as Strava, how I analyze my training, and how I get the best from my training. So I use an app called TrainingPeaks. I'll put the link to it in the description if you want to go and check it out for yourself. But basically, it's like Strava, but it's a personal data analyst website. No one else can see it, and it's just a little bit more in depth, and it gives you a few more statistics and a few more details. So I decided to go back to like a typical training week. We are on the 30th of August, so kind of mid to end season. It's just a standard week. We got a 2-hour ride on the Monday, 4 hours on the Tuesday, 3 hours on Wednesday. Then I did a ride and a race on Thursday, a rest day on Friday, then 3 hours on Saturday, and a decent 6-hour ride on Sunday. Now, as most of you know, Steve Lampier sets my training. He's also my team manager. I get on really well with Steve. We have a good coach-athlete relationship. He's helped me immensely over the past year or two, and so he's the one that tells me what to do day to day. He goes on to TrainingPeaks, sets out the training, so like what he wants me to do. So for example, I'm just going to click onto my Saturday workout, and as you can see here, it's got the name of the workout, the planned duration of the workout, and then he's also included a description of how I should complete that training. Basically, it kind of takes all the uncertainty away of what to do, what not to do. It just makes it so much easier having that description there. So I wake up in the morning, I load the TrainingPeaks app on my phone, I take a look at what I've got set for that day, read through the description, and it should just be as simple as, implanting that into my brain and then heading out on the bike and completing the session as he said to do so. So once you've completed the ride, you just upload it, very similar to how you do with Strava. This is actually connected to my Wahoo account, so as soon as I upload it onto Wahoo, it uploads to both Strava and TrainingPeaks onto the correct allocated day on this calendar. Then what we can do, we can click onto the ride and click Analyze in the top right corner. Here we have a whole load of different statistics. First off, we've got a power graph. I'm going to take away any time cuts. So this is, we can smoothen it out with this little bar up here, this smoothing bar. If we go all the way down, it pretty much just normalizes all of the graphs. So we can very clearly see here, so the purple color is my power. We can see here that I started for around 15 kilometers, and then I got into some progressive efforts, and we can quite clearly see that they were progressive efforts. I started off at around 350, 340, and we peaked up at like 440, 450, and this was replicated for 4 efforts. A little bit of recovery time in between. Then after the 4th effort, I did another sort of 10 or 11 kilometers, and then I got into whatever this effort was. I don't know what actually was that effort. In the last hour, I do 30 minutes at sweet spot. So that last hour is just 30 minutes sat at around, for me, it probably sat around 315 to 320 average. So from like an initial glance, we can see that I completed the training how I should have completed it, or my coach Steve can quite easily see that I completed the training. Now what he can also do is, well, on the right hand side you've got your stats, for example, normalized power, time, distance, average power, cadence, average speed, all that good stuff. But down here on the right hand side we've got our lap data. So what we can do, we can click, if we click onto lap 2, this basically just highlights the first effort. We can then go up to the summary chart here, and it's got our average power, average cadence, and all the same stats that we just had a minute ago, but for that individual effort. So this allows the coach to go on and really interrogate your training to make sure you've been doing it how you should have done. Again, we can go to lap 4, which is the next lap after an 8-minute break. We can see my average power was exactly the same. So I mean, that's consistent. I think that's pretty good. The next one, we dropped down by 1 single watt, which again is pretty consistent. And then the 4th effort, all right, we dropped off a little bit on the 4th effort, but that's kind of like, I kind of expect that just because it's the 4th effort of the day, the hard efforts. So no doubt I'm going to be feeling that last one a little bit. And then finally we had 40 minutes of easy riding. I mean, 150 watts. We're just ticking over there before the final effort, which is an average of 325 watts. And that was actually, it's a good cadence. Normally when I do the longer efforts, my cadence drops a little bit. So I think I've just been lucky and I've picked a day when I've actually done my training like good. So yeah, an average cadence of 90. And that is a very quick summary of how I analyze the graph, or how I look at the graph. I'm a complete numbers guy. I love numbers. I love stats. So doing a session, especially like a complicated session, or not a complicated session, but especially like when I'm doing different efforts and stuff, I love to go on after just to see how close I actually was to nailing on like what I was supposed to do. I'm quite a perfectionist like that, so it's nice to see that the first session that we clicked on for the sake of this video was a decently paced session. Now, analyzing data on TrainingPeaks doesn't stop there. Another really cool feature, if we go to dashboard here, click on the dashboard and scroll down, we've got this performance management chart. Now this graph here shows 3 different levels. The first is the ATL, which is basically your fatigue, your CTL, which is your sort of general fitness, and your TSB, which is your like current form. The result of these 3 is like in a number format. So for each training session that you do, you get a TSS, or a training stress score. This is worked out using quite a complicated formula, but basically it's the amount of time you spend at FTP. So for example, if you do a 1-hour ride at FTP, your TSS will be bang on 100. So for a little bit of context, whenever I do the Elite Crit series here in the UK, they're about an hour in length, and basically it's a 1 hour flat out as hard as you can go on the limit. And after I do one of those crits, my TSS is around 100. If I do a zone 2 endurance ride per hour, it should be around 45 to 50. And yeah, you can kind of get where I'm going with this. It's the harder you're pedaling, the harder you go, the quicker you accumulate TSS. I think my highest ever day of TSS was around 350. That was at the Adapter Tour last year. So I'm going to go back to a typical week here, the end of August. So no, the end of September, the 24th of September. My training session today, I'd done 82 TSS. It's probably like a two hour ride. If I was to guess off the top of my head, without like clicking on it and going into detail. But on this current day, my ATL, my fatigue was 121, which like is quite high. My fitness, or my CTL, was 121, which also is that's good. The higher that number, the fitter you are. Basically, the higher that number. When anything over 100 like shows that you're in good, like personally you're in good condition. My form was -6, which -6 is kind of the sweet spot for going into an event, for going into a race. You want that number to be negative, but only just. Like if you've planned your training well, if you've executed your training well, then that number should be around like -2 to -10 in the lead up to a race. So if I was to guess, I would say that I had a race coming up that weekend. But this is a perfect example because I'm at that point now where my fitness is really good, my form is perfect, but my fatigue, my like long-term build-up of fatigue is starting to creep up a little bit high. We kind of want that number around 100. So this might be a little bit of an indication that the season's starting to come to an end. I've done like a full season of racing. I'm probably still feeling pretty good on the bike, but my recovery might start getting a little bit slower. And like this is really just a tool for my coach to see how I'm at physically, and then they can plan my training ahead in accordance to this. Now, I just want to say like these numbers aren't gospel. There's times when my CTL has been way below 100 and I felt super fit. For example, yesterday, my current CTL, my current fitness is only 86. And but I did an FTP test yesterday. I did a 20-minute power of 382 watts, which is my best ever. So like, it's not the be all and end all, but it's a great starting place, and it really does let you get a little bit of an understanding about what workouts are most effective, what workouts raise your CTL the highest per hour, for example. And that is about it. I hope that gave you a little bit of an understanding of how I use TrainingPeaks and how it helps planning, executing, and analyzing my training. Now, I'm not a coach. I don't know this software inside out. This is just from my own personal use over the past about 2 years. I'm sure there's a whole load more features that you guys use, but I just haven't used them yet. So this is TrainingPeaks from my own personal experience. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's a little bit different to my other stuff, but if you took something from it, please leave a like down below. And with that being said, I will see you tomorrow at 4 p.m.